A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express papers Chandigarh edition. Now, from today's newspaper, the first two mentioned over here, National Security Strategy. This is important for GS3 internal security. It is going to be released in some time. That's what we know. So this is important. It will tell us about key elements of security threats that India feels. Then joint cybercrime coordination team meeting took place. This is basically a regional summit. So North Indian states of Punjab, Haryana, Himachal, those states meeting had taken place regarding cybercrime threats and how coordination can be there. So cybercrime we can do separately also, right? So cybercrime has been asked also in the exam, especially like different types of cybercrimes or cyber threats. Then cybercrime as a non-traditional means of cyber warfare. Then cyber security policy 2013. Questions have been asked on these lines in the GS3 paper. Then if we go forward, we have this topic which is important. There is an opinion which says that India's population would be aging significantly by 2050, and this will have implications for the Indian society, economy, polity, etc. So the main focus when I was reading this was on the facts, because the points, the implications are very generic, but the facts have to be mentioned in answer writing. So I highlighted the facts over here. Right. So these three, according to me, are the most important from today's news. Now moving forward onto the front page. Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh is in trouble. Enforcement Directorate says that the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh took money from a betting application group. There is some app known as Mahadev app which promotes betting, and it is alleged that he took rupees 508 crores. Okay, so this news is done. Moving forward, we come to the National Security Strategy. So work starts on shaping first National Security Strategy, long wait ends. This strategy would be stitched by the National Security Council Secretariat. So now we get two things. So one is the National Security Strategy, which we can look from mains point of view, and the agency which is framing it, which is National Security Council Secretariat, which can be asked in your prelims, like who all are the members of the NSC. So first, let us look at this National Security Strategy. Okay, we don't know the contours as it is being stitched right now, but we get an overall idea. So the National Security Strategy would provide for countries' security objectives. So what are the security objectives? Then it will highlight the ways, the steps to be taken to meet these objectives. So one is objectives, then what measures need to be adopted. Then what are India's concerns, traditional and non-traditional threats? So the different types of threats, and lastly, accountability of agencies. So these are going to be the broad parameters of the National Security Strategy. Right? Objectives, measures to be adopted, threats, and accountability of agencies. Okay. Now let us look at these traditional and non-traditional security threats. So traditional security threats are military threats, maybe like terror threats, something like that. So military threats are there. And non-military threats, non-traditional threats are non-military threats, which are in domains of economy, politics, human rights, trade, etc. I think one example I can give you is using of civil society organizations by a foreign player, let's say US, to instigate unrest in Indian polity, or Chinese doing it to instigate unrest or protest in the Indian society. So that could be there. Funding could be coming to, let's say, protest against a nuclear power plant from Russia or something like that. Kudankulam, we know something like this that happened. Okay, cyber may also come into the non-traditional threats. So these are the things. So we get a broad outline. And one more point that was mentioned in the next page of this article, it says that we need a whole of government approach. That security related aspects need not be just the home ministry and the security forces, but we need a whole of government approach. So what is whole of government approach? So it refers to the involvement of direct multiple ministries, administrations. So taking a holistic viewpoint of this. For example, let's say we're talking about terror, right? So one is that security agencies have a crackdown on terror, people engaged in that. But terror also engage elements of financing. It also involves an element of human resources, which are joining ranks of terrorists. So there is a discontent because maybe because of lack of development, because of lack of jobs, lack of welfare. So there are other ministries like, let's say, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Industries. So they also have a stake in bringing in security and stability in the country. Okay, so we get to know this. Now, let me just complete this now. Question may be asked as to, like, national security strategy is being started, work is started. So what do you think should be the key outcomes of this strategy, or what is the need for a national security strategy? And from needs, you can say all these points. Presently, very few countries like US and UK have. To the next part, we have already heard that the national security strategy is being stitched by the NSC Secretariat. So what is the NSC? NSC is the National Security Council, and its members are National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, Ministers of Defense, External Affairs, Home, Finance, and the Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog. So these are the members. Now, the National Security Council Secretariat, which is actually framing this, so it basically has secretaries of these respective ministries. These people plus secretaries, so they are part of the National Security Council Secretariat. Right, so that's it. Okay, now we just move on from here. Next, we hear again about internal security. I'll thank the paper for this because we get two related topics simultaneously. So, fourth, joint cyber crime coordination team meeting took place. So, this took place in Chandigarh, and we understand that it is the nearby states. So, they are discussing this cyber crime related issues. Okay. So here they're saying that cryptocurrency related frauds dominate deliberations. Okay, so now we get two things again. So one is cyber crime related issues, like we did for national security strategy. Likewise, cyber security and cyber crime related issues. In UPSC, if we look at the GS3 paper, so one is on the different types of cyber crime. That type of question is asked. We have to elaborate. Then questions are asked with respect to, holistically speaking, with respect to the cyber security policy 2013. And maybe some element of cyber security policy, because one question that was asked was raising a digital army, and the cyber security policy had a one of the pointers that there should be a manpower or human resource trained in dealing with digital crimes. So we see questions asked from here, a lot of questions coming from here. Then, of course, the steps to be taken to deal with cyber crime related aspects. So some of the schemes are Cyber Surakshit Bharat, Cyber Swachhta Kendra, Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, which is also written as I4C. Right. Then constitution of a national cyber crime reporting portal. So all these initiatives. And talking about international framework, we have Budapest Convention. Then I'll just write from here. Budapest Convention on Cybercrime India is not a signatory. International Telecommunication Union, which is an agency within the UN, and Internet Governance Forum. This is a civil society. This is a platform which brings in the government, private sector, and civil society on internet governance. So yeah, these are my notes actually on internal security. Okay. So moving on. So yes, the next part would be cryptocurrency related aspects. So cryptocurrency related frauds are increasing. So what are the cryptocurrency types of frauds? Or let's say cryptocurrency related types of crimes. So there is cryptocurrency ransomware attacks, right? So cryptocurrency ransomware attack, cryptocurrency scams, maybe money is taken illegally, stolen, darknet markets and illicit trade. So trade is taking place using cryptocurrencies so that it is undetected by the state regulators. Then using it for terror funding, terror financing. So these are some of the cryptocurrency related crimes. I feel it will not be a bad idea to prepare cryptocurrency related crimes separately also, because if it is asked in exam, we'll not be able to attempt it. It may take us time, so we should be prepared for this. Okay, Delhi pollution is bad. If you have your friends, they will tell you also. So here in this article, more focuses on farm fires. Punjab, there's again an increase in farm fires. Haryana also it is there. So that we know. Now today we get an explainer basically explaining the environmental factors because of which there is pollution in the Delhi NCR region. So first it says is, first of all, of course, you should know that pollution takes place all the time. But during the winter months, there is a condition which does not allow the pollutants to escape. Right. So pollutants to escape and thereby aggravating the pollution problem. So that you should know that pollution is already taking place. It's not like during winter more pollution is taking place. It's just that pollutants are not able to escape. So one point that is mentioned is there is a condition of subsidence. The air is subsiding. Fine. So the air is subsiding because of anticyclonic atmospheric circulation. So you get to know anticyclonic is subsiding air. So when the air is subsiding, it does not allow the pollutants to escape. Normal condition is cyclonic, where the air rises, and when the air rises, it gets dispersed. So the pollution also gets dispersed. So that is not taking place. Then, of course, agricultural burning is taking place. So 40% of all burning events in the state it is mentioning. So agricultural burning is obviously adding to the pollution. And with the end of the Kharif season, you have to quickly cultivate the Rabi crops. So stubble burning takes place as a result. Then there are winds flowing from northwest. So from Pakistan, it's originating, it is flowing northwest. So it is, the Punjab and Haryana also where stubble burning is taking place. All that wind is aggregated towards Delhi region, right? So that is also leading to the pollution. So I just talking from weather point of view, anticyclonic, and then we have the second point is winds appear from northwestern region. Here again it says the wind has changed direction from southeast to northwest. Traditionally, it is flowing from here, southeast, but now it is flowing from here. So this does not allow the air to escape. In fact, pollutants from Punjab, Haryana, they are coming into New Delhi region. So this point is basically the same point. This and this are same points. Normally, western disturbances, when they take place, western disturbances is cyclonic winds that flow from the northwest and they bring precipitation. So this soothes the air. With the rains, the pollutants get dispersed. So, but this time the western disturbance may not carry so much moisture, and thereby the pollutants may not escape. It may bring in slight respite. Okay, so let's summarize. Anticyclonic condition, subsiding air. The second point was winds changing direction from southeast to northwest. So these are the main points, and I'll add one more. I feel it is less. Yes, one more third point is mentioned is the troposphere is becoming shallow during the winter months. So the ground, the atmosphere, right? So troposphere. Troposphere is where as we move upwards, the temperature falls. Logical thing. Okay. So when the top temperature stops falling, that is the boundary of troposphere. During the winter months, because it is cooler, the troposphere comes down. So when the troposphere comes down, where the weather phenomena take place, so thereby the pollution is constrained in a shallower region. So we have how many points now? One, the changing in direction. Two, and troposphere getting shallow. One more point I'll add. Temperature inversion. During the winter months, the land gets cooler. Thereby, the air close to the land is also cold. So the air near the land is colder than the air above it. Above also is cold, but the air below is colder. So this creates an air envelope which does not allow the mixing of the air, and therefore the pollutants do not get dispersed. So if you see, the main point is dispersion of pollutants. That is not taking place. Dispersion, ventilation, whichever way you want to put it. Now we have the explained section. Delhi's polluting haze. We have explained it. Next is fixing Mumbai's air prescription. So these measures have been given. Increase monitoring, air quality index monitoring. Set up independent commission for air quality for Mumbai, like there in Delhi NCR. In Delhi NCR, there is CAQM. Yesterday we discussed. Central Air Quality Commission for Air Quality Management Commission, and they implement the graded response action plan for Delhi. So something like that could be in Bombay also, since now we see that Bombay is repeatedly having more pollution. Then upgrade technical infrastructure, engineers, etc., to deal with pollution. And then more emissions should be reduced. So testing, etc., should be done. Should be more done. Okay. Then ensure continuous monitoring of policies and their effective implementations. Citizens should be more conscious. They should use bicycles, etc., so that tailpipe emissions come down. Administration should also be more proactive. Now, how air pollution impacts economic growth. So we have points from the CII, Confederation of Indian Industries. I'm just reading this. So one is productivity costs increase. So productivity costs increase because of this, because of poor air conditions, right? You don't feel well, so the productivity comes down. Plus, there is obviously absenteeism at times because of bad health or whatever reason. Absenteeism also increases. It leads to decline in consumption economies. People tend to remain in the house during excessive pollution. They avoid going out, and therefore the consumption, people going to the markets, etc., also comes down. So it affects the economy. Reduced lifespan for business assets. I have seen, I was working in this refrigerant industry before. So, AC is close to the nalas, where there is more pollution, more gaseous elements. They used to get corrode faster. So with more pollution, your business assets, your equipments may get bad sooner. And of course, economic toll from premature death. So these are the aspects. Then more healthcare cost and all those things are also there. Indian PM and British PM have a telephonic call. They discuss the Gaza. They discuss the free trade agreement talks, right? And they discuss the issue of terrorism. And so these are the issues that they discussed. There is a petition in the Supreme Court. This is about Women's Reservation Bill, that the time frame, this women's reservation bill should be implemented sooner. Presently, of course, that women's reservation bill was introduced. I think 106th Constitutional Amendment Act. It was introduced, and it says that there should be reservation. One third of the seats would be reserved in the Lok Sabha and the respective state legislative assemblies. That's fine. So that has been brought in. But it says that this will happen after the next census. Actually, not after the next census, after the next delimitation commission. So once a delimitation action takes place, that is redefining of the boundaries, and after that, the women's reservation bill would be introduced. Now, this will take a long time because, first of all, the next census has to be released. Census is released every 10 years, and after the census, delimitation exercise is supposed to take place. And this correlation comes from Article 82 of the Constitution for the parliamentary seats, Lok Sabha seats, and 170 of the Constitution for state legislative assemblies. Next, we have Chief Justice of India, which has taken a strong note of repeated case adjournments because they lead to pendency of cases, judicial pendency. So he says this should be avoided. Now, what we should be looking at is the aspect of high judicial pendency in the country. We should have facts, we should have the reasons and what remedial measures are in place. That is one thing, judicial pendency. The other issue could be judicial accountability. That's a larger construct. Judicial accountability means holding the judiciary accountable. So pendency is now one of the components of judicial accountability. It could also be with respect to accessibility, could also be there, right? Making justice accessible. It can also be issue of clean judiciary. It can be also with respect to judicial appointments. So judicial accountability is a much larger construct. Let me see if I have judicial pendency page open. Yeah. So when we talk about judicial pendency, so some of the facts that I've aggregated. So we need to have more number of judges to be appointed. So we have the recommendation of the 120th Law Commission report. Then we have Justice Ajit Prakash Committee report, which has given a list of recommendations that we should have more number of judges. Judiciary should work for a longer time so that pendency is addressed. Besides, there is a work on Niti Aayog has come up with Judicial Performance Index. Then it says that another step is that judiciary should be freed from administrative work. So judiciary should be freed from administrative work. Their primary responsibility should be dispensing justice. Then use of information communication technology, right? So e-courts, etc. So those should be there. So yes. Coming to the next one, editorial page now. So I'm doing these two articles, transparency at stake. This is electoral bonds and higher rates. There's different banks, US Federal Bank, European Central Bank. So they are keeping interest rates high. So these two I'm discussing. I think let me tell you why I've not taken the other ones also. So this is about the Delhi's pollution. Aam Aadmi Party should take greater responsibility with Delhi. Now we come to the next article. This is on the electoral bonds. The author is S.Y. Qureshi, who was the former Chief Election Commissioner. So this is a critical assessment on the electoral bonds. So he says that electoral bonds, the idea was that they were introduced so that cash-based donations do not take place to the political parties. Previously, cash-based donations less than 20,000 rupees to a political party need not be disclosed. So the political parties said that majority of the funding is coming from cash-based donations and therefore they would not disclose. So this was seen as an unethical practice and thereby electoral bonds were introduced. Okay. Now when electoral bonds are introduced, again, anonymity of the donor is retained. That is, the source of donations to the political parties are not disclosed when they use the mechanism of electoral bonds. So this element of secrecy does not bode well for a democracy, because in a democracy, the citizens must know about the possibility of conflict of interest when they go for a vote. So that is a requirement. But the government says that donors desire secrecy. Okay. But then this hides the element of a possible quid pro quo. That is, the government, if they come to power, the ruling party, they return the favor for the funding that they have gotten. So that is one of the things is about the secrecy. Then the electoral bonds, the way the scheme is designed, it may allow for proliferation of shell companies. That there are companies who do not have actual business, any operations, but they are made only to provide funding to the political parties. In fact, previously, the Election Commission as well as the Reserve Bank of India had raised concerns about electoral bonds, the element of anonymity, and how it could be used for bringing in black money into the politics of the country. So they had already raised concerns. However, in April 2021, the council, the representative of the Election Commission of India in the courts, they retreated from this argument because the government wanted to introduce electoral bonds. So that is one. So I think one is, you got the point, quid pro quo, right? The next is about black money. Proliferation of shell companies is black money. Second point. Third, when electoral bonds were introduced, at the same time, there was relaxation in certain laws regarding election financing. So, Finance Act 2017 was introduced to amend certain laws. For example, RBI Act, Companies Act, Income Tax Act, Representation of Peoples Act, and interestingly, Foreign Contributions Regulation Act. So the Companies Act that was introduced, previously it said that only those companies can provide funding. They can provide funding if only 7.5% of their profits. So first of all, they should have a profit, and of that, only 7.5 they could provide for political funding. So this condition has been done away with. So that means that now fake companies like shell companies, etc., can also provide funding to political parties. So this promotes this culture. So this argument is becoming stronger with this. Then, of course, Foreign Contributions Regulation Act, that is, money from outside can come and to be donated to the political parties. So this also has certain concerns that foreign players, one is, of course, there are Indian diaspora who can provide funding, they have an interest, they have a stake. But at the same time, there may be unethical elements, state and non-state actors, which may try to bring in black money, etc., into the political circuit. So that is there, and of course, maybe influence the politics of the country. Okay. Now, the Solicitor General, the person representing the government, he's saying that the citizens do not have a right to know about the donors and the funding that they are doing. So here the author is arguing that this is antithetical to the ideas of democracy, and further he nudges the Supreme Court that they must be proactive in protecting the citizens' right, especially the rights to information, and is giving the case of few landmark verdicts. So this you should take note of. So one is the 2003 ruling, which is PUCL versus Union of India, and the other is 2002 judgment, Union of India versus Association of Democratic Reforms. So these two judgments directed the government and the Election Commission of India to disclose the background information of political contestants. right? So that is why we know the criminal records etc. at the present times. So this was because of the judicial intervention. So something like that can be done by the Supreme Court through this case that is being heard on the electoral bonds. So that will help clean the political system. So that's it actually. Next, higher for longer. This is about the interest rates. Okay. So we are seeing that US Federal Bank, European Central Bank, and England Bank is not mentioned, but you get the gist. So the developed economies, they have raised their interest rates. Like RBI increases the repo rate, so they have raised their interest rates from time to time on account of very high inflation. You know, England was having inflation of upwards of 10%, which is very steep. Normally, their inflation is well managed. Okay, so they kept the interest rates high. Now, most recently, they have decided to keep the interest rates unchanged. This is a trend that we are seeing. Interest rates unchanged. US most recently announced it. So rather than reducing, they have kept the interest rates unchanged. There is a possibility that at a later time that they may increase the interest rates. And why is the newspaper saying so? They are saying so because uh, of the higher inflation. For example, the US inflation has adjusted to 4.9%. 4.9%. It looks okay from Indian point of view, but the US target is 2%. So even though the inflation has come down, it still is significantly higher than their target. It is 2.5 times of their target. And the same applies for other countries also. And thereby, in future, they may increase the rates. Now, what are the implications for India? Implications are simple. When they increase the interest rates, we expect capital to flow out of the country. When the capital flows out of the current country, we see, of course, they will not take out rupees, they will take out dollars. So there is an outflow of currency. When outflow of currency takes place, there is a current account deficit. The currency of domestic currency falls, dollar appreciates, right? So all those things, and of course, it affects the value of imports coming to the country. Imports become more expensive, so that is inflationary because dollar increases. You can imagine the case of crude. So let's say the crude is at about $87 per barrel. So one is $87 have to be spent plus more money has to be spent to buy dollars. So that is the concern. You know, if you can just elaborate these, that is fine. We expect such questions in the exam. Next is a matter of graying, according to me, the most important article. So it is saying that yes, presently we are having a demographic dividend. You know, our present mean age is 28.3 years, and approximate is 29 years. But this youthful age will eventually, youthful population will eventually age. So you can imagine this demographic curve that you can see over here. So this is the youthful population. The bulge of the population is over here. This population ages. So as they age, this bulge will move upwards. And as the birth rate is falling, so we will see a narrower curve over here. So less population to support the aging population, because our population is going below the replacement rate. Replacement rate is 2.2. We are around that mark. So it is actually falling down. Okay. So we need some facts actually, basically. So there is this UN population fund, UN fund for population, UNFPA, UN population fund. So they have issued a India Aging Report 2023. And in this, they are saying just this part over here. They are saying that by in presently 2022, there were 149 million persons aged 60 years and above. This is 10.5% of country's population. 2022. This will double by 2050. So this will become 20.8, which is roughly 21%. So the population 60 years and above will increase significantly. That means there will be higher burden on health. These are dependent populations, so the government, they are not earning, so the pay, for them to sustain pensions, etc., has to be provided. So it will have a implication on the health, economy, and society of the country. Just this fact is important. Okay, now nothing much. Israel issue, Hezbollah threatens escalation. So let's say this is Israel, Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon is on the north. And from Lebanon, Hezbollah is striking. So Hezbollah is again being, Israel is retaliating. Now Hezbollah says they will threaten escalation. Pak opens more border centers to spur return of Afghan migrants. Okay. Coming to the economy news. So first, direct listing on foreign exchanges. Companies, private companies list themselves in exchanges. Let's say Indian exchange also, Sensex, Nifty, etc. They list in the stock markets. So when they list in the stock market, they can raise capital from, they can raise public capital, right? They can raise public capital. They issue shares, people buy the shares, and thereby the companies raise capital. So this is one of the ways. So instead of raising money just from domestic stock markets, the companies can list directly in foreign exchange. So that means they can target foreign capital directly. I think that's simple. So there is an amendment made in Section 5 of the Companies Act 2020, which allows direct listing on foreign exchanges. Next, service sector PMI, Purchase Managers Index, grows at slowest pace in 7 months. Fine, I think service sector is not growing at desired rate, so less jobs would be there. More of our economy is based on services sector. So subdued demand amid inflationary surge, these are among the reasons. And I think AI and eventually they will further affect the service sector growth. Yes, so that's it from today's news analysis.